For WRTI, I'm Alex Arif, and we are joined by comedian, writer, actor, first and foremost, violist, Isabel Hagen. This is going to be a semi-comprehensive chat, but I'm interested in learning about, obviously, your upbringing, playing the instrument, your transition to comedy, which is really fascinating to me, and it's coming on about 10 years now, right?
Yes.
This is your 10-year anniversary?
This is my 10-year anniversary of pursuing comedy in earnest. I say that because, I did maybe a couple open mics over the course of 2 years before that, where I was just sort of testing it out.
First, let's talk about the music that you heard growing up, because I know your father is a saxophonist. Still teaches at MSM?
He's retired now, but he still plays, practices every day, gigs, and, plays little underground in record shops, his own music. He's very serious about his art and very cool and really, really talented musician. And I grew up with him practicing all the time. My older brother is a very serious pianist and conductor and clarinetist, and also grew up hearing him bang on a Steinway for hours a day very loudly, and so that was all around me. And my mom's just a visual artist, so she had to work. She basically was like living in a music conservatory with everyone practicing in different rooms.
But she does pottery?
She does pottery.
And what was so where was her studio or her wheel? And my brother and I used to share like a shoebox room when we were little, because we lived in a New York apartment, and she had a studio with a kiln in the back and a wheel. And then she retired and we made that into another bedroom, and she became a web designer. So then she only did pottery in the summers, teaching at a summer camp, which she still does every summer. So wow. I mean, this is like a real bohemian upbringing. It's almost like cliche.
It's pretty, yeah. You couldn't come up with a more like cliche artsy New York upbringing.
So your brother, he still is in music?
Yes.
And he's younger or older?
He's 5 years older.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard you say in other interviews that you kind of saw your trajectory. Like it was very clear to you at a young age that whether it was delusional or realistic, when you play your string instrument, you can go here, you get a job in the orchestra. When your brother's age gap's a little bit, you were able to kind of see ahead. Did it kind of clarify your own journey?
Yeah, I mean, maybe not necessarily what I ended up really wanting to do and doing, but my journey to becoming, a musician who studied at Juilliard, absolutely, because he was so far ahead of me and accomplishing so much, and I was just a real copycat, and I just wanted to do everything he did, even though we're very different people, but I really looked up to him, and, he went to Juilliard pre-college, then I wanted to go to Juilliard pre-college, and he got this special honors, and I was like, well, I'm going to get the same thing, I just really would go for whatever he did, and not in a competitive way, because we played different instruments, but I saw all the attention and, praise he was getting, and I wanted it too.
But you picked viola.
Yeah. Very different personality.
Yeah. I mean, clarinet, you said?
Yeah. Although he doesn't really play clarinet anymore, but he did his undergrad in clarinet. I mean, he was a very, very good clarinetist. If he wanted to keep doing that, he could, but...
Both instruments are the butt of many jokes, actually.
Yeah, and then similar voice. I mean, tone. I play a lot of clarinet music on the viola.
Ah, interesting register.
The Brahms sonatas and a lot of other stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, we can go there. Audience knows all about Brahms. Yeah. The viola kind of opened up opportunities for you because it was a less competitive ecosystem. When you have the viola and you're a studied violist and you can hang, you will get more work.
Yeah. I mean, it might be less so nowadays. I think there are more and more people playing the viola. It's becoming, I don't know if it's exactly why. I think a lot of children are watching more YouTube and seeing things earlier on, or why, I don't know. But when I was growing up, it was pretty unusual to play the viola still. And if you were decent at the viola, you could really just do anything.
So by middle school, you are deep in viola land. Is that when, the jokes around viola, is the viola the butt of jokes?
Oh, I think...
Or is that just...
That's always been a thing. And as soon as I switched to the viola, I remember Googling viola jokes because I knew they existed, and I was like, now I can tell them. And I memorized, a whole page of viola jokes and would just tell them to anyone who would listen because I thought they were all so funny.
Go ahead.
I mean, I don't put me on the spot here. But...
All right. But it seems like violists have them in their back pocket.
Yes.
Because they're used to them. Is that kind of like the early glimmers of comedy and music in your life? Can you kind of look back at that joke, that sheet of jokes?
Yeah. And my mom got me this musician's joke book early on too. And I would just spend so much time with it, reading and memorizing and telling. And so it was so clear from early on that I just loved jokes. I think I just had no idea that was a career path.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would see stand-up comedians on TV, but I never made the connection that they're telling jokes and I could tell, to me, it was just like, that's amazing. They're talking and it's somehow funny and then they're bringing it back around. So I always thought it was incredible from afar, but just had no like connection in terms of like a path to be able to do that myself. There weren't that many like women doing it. So I didn't see people who seemed like me doing that. So I'm sure that played a part in me not pursuing it earlier.
We hear that with instrumental music as well.
Yeah.
But the fact that you are in New York City, though, gave you an incredible like leg up in terms of exposure, because you could go down to Gotham or Cellar.
I was lucky that I was studying music in New York, and then I could just start going to open mics in my free time. And I developed an injury in my wrist for a little bit, and that's when I did my sort of comedy, like trying an open mic here or there, just because I had all this time on my hands.
You mentioned that the viola, also kind of having that experience playing viola, gave you that context for how to support others in other arts.
Yeah, I think earlier on, my musical pursuits were just ways for me to have friends. I loved music, but like it was just because I was just really, I didn't know how to talk to people or be like normal. And I felt like every time I would interact with someone, I would just be like, oh, screw that up, even as a little kid. But once I was in like an orchestra or a chamber group, it was like I had a reason to be there, and I didn't want to be some soloist. I just wanted to be a part of something that I was good at. And so I think the comedy came later in this, this desire to actually be the center of attention on stage. That's definitely there now, but it was not always there. I liked being the inner voice and being a supporting role of something greater. And I still like that, but I also have this other desire now that's blossomed for whatever reason.
Well, it was inside of you, like what you're saying, and you might have had it, but the viola isn't given many opportunities to shine.
Right. I mean, there's viola concertos, and I would do the concerto competitions. Never would win.
Yeah.
But
Well, there's a terrific scene in your web series where the folks are lined up auditioning, and they're waiting to see their name on the sheet.
Hell yeah! Woo!
What?
Everything in that series was so relatable for a specific niche of people. I'm included in that, but I've shared it with other friends who went to music school, and it's like triggering.
Good.
Like, all right, good.
No, or I'm sorry. Because it came from absolutely real experiences and how that feels and how it all plays out, and this hunger, and everyone is sort of forced to be against each other in that moment, and it's hard.
Yeah, there's a terrific scene in the 4th episode where you're talking with a musician friend, and you insinuate that she's not a serious musician.
I can't believe you're quitting.
I'm gonna go home. It's helpful for me to talk about this with like a non-musician friend, so thank you for that.
Seriously? You've seen my band.
Oh. Yeah, well, like, I just meant like, because I'm like a professional. Like, I play classical music and went to Juilliard, and thanks for the tea and letting me sleep over.
Bye.
It is just so spot on. Some of the ego with trained musicians and the people who are just trying to make music for fun or for different reasons, or how to, yeah.
Yeah, I especially seeing my husband, who's a very, very much a trained musician, but he plays, in situations where it's just this different, slightly different thing, and there's more of a fan base around it. There's more like just immediate joy, I think. And a lot of classical musicians, whether or not we're depriving ourselves or are deprived because of our training, deprived of this sort of just in the moment joy. I think jazz musicians get it a little more because you're improvising and you're at least, you're making music from yourself, from your soul in that moment. I always felt as a classical musician, my interpretation still felt very spiritual and from me. But it's so contained and it's such a specific thing. And I always wish I could be one of those musicians who just like drops into a band and can like jam. I really can't jam. I'm sure I could learn if I really put my mind to it.
You have an ear, you have the facility.
But I have absolutely no background, no training in it.
Yeah.
It would take me years of like being bad at jamming. And
yes,
then,
so there's a learning curve to jamming.
There's a learning curve for everything.
Yeah.
It would, I had to be bad at comedy for many years.
You kind of like are in this media. It makes more sense sometimes when I think about it for a jazz musician to transfer to comedy, because they're used to not only the improvisation, but just the exchange between the audience. It's a different kind of exchange between the audience and the performer with comedy. You are meant to arouse, especially nowadays with crowd work being so popular. That is the antithesis of classical music.
Yes, and crowd work especially, but stand-up comedy in general is often compared to jazz, because people who do crowd work, who are masters at it, they have a lot of lines that are used over and over again. They just know how to set people up to be able to use them, and it seems spontaneous. It's the same with jazz improvisers who have the licks that they always use and they come back to. It's just these little motifs. And but the thing that
don't tell everybody.
Yeah, sorry. I'm also ruining it for all the crowd work comedians. But you have your line for the couple that doesn't know how long they've been dating. You have your line for the guy who's there with his mom. You have your line. There's all these
table of like bachelorette. I'm sure there's like the
bachelorette table, the diverse friend group. And you say it looks like a catalog, university. All these hacky lines that people use. But what reminds me of classical music with stand-up is the playing off the audience laughter, and the timing feels like chamber music to me.
Okay.
So that's the connection to classical music I get from comedy.
Okay. And how long did it take for you to get there, for it to feel similar? Because you'd been playing chamber music for many years prior.
Yeah, I think as soon as I started having consistently okay sets, which I think that was, maybe a couple years in, I would start being like, I could rely on having like a decent set if it was a good crowd. And that's when I realized, okay, now there's a new thing. It's not just getting the laugh. It's, okay, they're laughing. When do I hit them with the next thing? Okay, now, like you're just feeling it so intensely.
The viola as part of your routine, though, I'm curious in your trajectory when you decided to bring it on stage with you, and what kind of conversations did you have with yourself? Like, all right, how do I want to treat this?
Yeah, so I first did not want to combine them. I really wanted to give up having to play the instrument. The instrument felt very much like it was weighing me down. I just wanted to be able to like go on stage in a hoodie with a microphone, no more dressing. Like I just was craving this like the antithesis to what I had been doing and getting that from stand-up. And then very early on, when people would find out I was a musician, they would say like, well, do you ever bring it in your act? And I'd be like, no, I don't. What would I do? Like, well, then I was sad. Like that sounds horrible. And
we don't play trombone, so.
Yeah. I was a viola.
Oh, yeah. Okay, gotcha.
So it wasn't a very good viola. But then gradually, as I was doing longer sets, and still not, I probably should have given myself a little more time as a comedian doing longer sets, but I very quickly felt like, there are a lot of comedians out there telling jokes, and I do have this other part of me. It would be great if I could use it, but I have no idea how. And I think I was like taking a nap one day,
And as I was falling asleep, I just thought, I was like, well, what if I literally just, in a way to sort of make fun of the people asking me to combine them, just literally put them next to each other? Because that way I don't have to sacrifice the quality of either one. And I think the juxtaposition might be funny. I had a hunch.
Yeah.
And at that point, I have to say I hadn't even really watched any Henny Youngman, which is because that's what he does. So I tried it, and it kind of immediately killed. And it was like, oh, okay, this is something else I can dive into. And then like an audience member at one show, because I used to do most of the jokes I would do would be like, I hate my boyfriend, or my boyfriend this. And he was like, it's like a modern Henny Youngman, like, take my wife, please. And I was like, oh yeah, it is. And then I looked up and he actually does the like playing and joke, like the alternation. So I wish I could say I had seen that before and been inspired, but it was just sort of like, but I love it. It's like I somehow subconsciously, it was like continuing the tradition.
Yeah. So then when you find out that this existed, did anyone call you out? Like, oh, like...
If they did, I didn't care, because I knew it came from an organic place, and I'm doing it in my own way.
Exactly.
And, you know, what are you going to do?
It's not a prop. It's not like you're Gallagher.
No. As long as the playing is up to a certain level, I can feel okay with it.
Yeah.
Because it's just, this is what I do.
You put out this web series, is a Violist. 6 episodes? 5?
5 episodes.
5 episodes. And now it's being expanded. So talk to us about that. What it's being expanded to, a feature?
Sort of. I expanded it to a feature.
Got it.
No one asked for it to be expanded.
No one's asking for any of this.
No, I know. Yeah, I made this web series. The first one we shot was in like 2018. It was a while ago. And I would basically just write them on my own time. And then when I had a few bucks, hire a camera guy to show up and a sound person. And then my friend would edit them. It was very, like, you know, just zero budget essentially. And I made them all like over a couple of years. But then over COVID, because at first I was kind of keeping them, I was trying to maybe sell it as a TV show. So I wasn't posting it. I don't know, whatever. Over COVID, I just released them all. So it seemed like I had made this series all of a sudden. And yeah, it seemed to get a good reaction. A lot of musicians related to it. And then I was writing sort of a half-hour comedy show version of it, you know, like 30-minute episodes, trying to pitch it to a network. Nothing was really coming of it. We were still in COVID times, so that was all. It was like a particularly slow time. And then I thought, you know, I'm kind of just bursting to tell this story. So I took the 3 episodes I wrote and took pieces of them that I liked and wrote it into a feature script, which was done by like December of 21. So it's really, you know, morphed into this other thing. And then I shot that in fall of 23.
Okay.
And we're done finally, and now it's premiering in this June at Tribeca Film Festival. So
how does that feel?
It feels amazing, because it's been just years of you know, fighting and first waiting for people to give me permission, and then just deciding to do it myself, and then still not knowing how to do it, or you know, slowly finding collaborators who really believed in the project, and raising a lot of money and in all sorts of ways. And it's just been a long, all-consuming thing.
And who's scoring it?
My husband is scoring it. My husband, Will Canzaneri. The thing is, the movie contains a lot of diegetic music. So there's a string quartet in it. And most of the score for most of the movie is just the music in the universe. But then, you know, I don't want to give too much away, but towards the end, you get the cues that are not in the world.
Gotcha.
And that's what he wrote.
What does the title On a String come from?
Well, I like the song "I've Got the World on a String," you know. So I was like, oh, there's like a whimsy to "on a string" and obviously string instruments. So it sort of came to me.
Got it.
Yeah.
And on a string is kind of like also like on a wire.
Yeah, like it can play into the because the movie there's a whimsy and an ultimate sort of joy I'd like people to maybe get from it. But there's also a lot of like stress and awkwardness, and it could be like, you know, on a wire, like So it could be both.
Isabel Hagen, thank you for coming to WRTI.
Thank you for having me.